It's really great to see all of you. I especially want to thank Michelle for all the support, giving us this opportunity at the library. Thank you, Michelle. And I'd like to give you a hand because this is a beautiful library. Basically, just to let you know, my name is Howard Berman. My firm is BCA Management. And yes, if you have someone to blame for the 29 natural laws of sales, I plead guilty. I did write it. And it's a joy to have the opportunity to talk to people about the book and to get people to read the book, and we'll get into some of that as we go along. But I'd like to start off with some questions, okay? So I'd like to see a show of hands from the audience of how many of you are directly involved in gaining new business for either your employer as a salesperson or for your own business. Okay, look around. That's everyone. It's very good. Okay, now, here's a great question. I think it's a great question. Why do you go on a sales call with a prospect? Why do you arrange that meeting? Who's got an answer?
To ultimately make a sale.
Aha. Who else has an answer? Yes.
Scott?
To make it easy for the client to say yes.
Good. Very good.
Establish a relationship.
Okay. Others? Any others? Okay. I think all three of those answers are correct, but I want to give you a fundamental that lies beneath all of those answers, which is this. The real reason you go on a sales call is to find out if you can help the prospect. Now, take a look at that. Take a look at what the other answers were, the make a sale answer, the development of a relationship answer. And the third answer, I forget what it was. But all of that is enabled by finding out if you can help the prospect. Does that make sense? Because that is why you go on a sales call. Now, I've stood in front of lots of groups, and I've gotten some pretty interesting answers. Answers such as, to pay my rent, to not get fired by the sales manager, to get my wife off my back. That's what I grew up with. But all those answers are incorrect. The only real answer why you go to sales call is to find out if you can help the prospect. Now, if you can help the prospect, do you then have something to talk about? Do you?
Yes.
Yes, you do. But what if you don't? What if you can't help the prospect? What if you ask the question and really they need a new accountant and you're not an accountant? Then what? Do you have something to talk about? Do you?
Yes.
Yes.
What is it?
Helping them find an accountant.
Excellent. That's correct. But if they bring up a point like, well, I need someone to fix my roof, and the last time you looked, you're not a contractor, and you don't know a roofer, you basically have one thing to do, which is politely end the conversation. But yet, we will find salespeople who will try to figure out something to sell, even when they shouldn't. For heaven's sake. What's that all about? Well, that's
Deception.
That's not who you want to be. If you start with the premise that you're out there to help people improve their lives and businesses, things are going to go really well. And if you're not, they're not going to go really well. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, good. All right, so we can establish that one. Now, all right. Now, I mentioned finding out if you can help the prospect, okay? What do you have to do to get that kind of information? Remember, you want the person to tell you what they really need to help them, correct? What do you need to do to get that information? I'm sorry?
Ask questions.
Good.
Establish
But there's a more fundamental.
Establish credibility.
More fundamental.
Identify their need.
Sorry?
Find out what their need is.
You're getting warmer.
Be empathic to their problem.
It's good.
Qualify the customer?
No? but good try. Sorry. Okay.
Make a connection.
Ah, you're the warmest yet.
What did he say?
Now,
Establish a credibility.
Find a common,
Yeah.
Build a friend, become their friend, I mean.
yes.
Become their friend.
Okay, but how?
asking
Listening,
questions, listen.
Give me more.
just looking them in the eye.
Yes, give me more though.
Looking them in the eye.
Imagine if I came up to you and I just looked you in the eye. Who the hell are you?
And just getting small, asking them like, gee, that's a beautiful tie. Where did you get that?
I don't remember.
Or asking them
Howard.
what they think they need.
Yes, all right. Let's get right down to the bottom of this. It's a very big fundamental called communication.
Communication.
This is how human beings interact with each other. When someone's talking to you, what are you supposed to be doing?
Listening.
You? And if they're talking, if you're talking, what should they be doing? What about this?
Ooh,
No. What about the phone?
ooh,
What about, is it raining?
ooh.
How many of you have had someone ask you a question and then kept talking? Hasn't it happened? Did you like it?
No.
Anybody like it? Guy says, how you doing today? Boy, oh boy, isn't it hot? That's not communication. You ask a question, it's time for the other person to answer. So, okay, we were talking about how you find out if you can really help somebody. The way you find that out is by establishing good communication. Now, the mechanical parts of it are they're talking, you're listening, you're talking, they're listening, you're not interrupting, you're not looking into space, and you're exhibiting something that had better be there if you want to play this game called sales, and you could underline this, genuine and demonstrable interest. Has everybody got that? Believe me, and I'm quite confident of this after plenty of decades, that if you're really interested in the prospect, they'll know it. And if you're not, they'll know it. And you will be shown the door rather quickly. Or, let's get a great rendition, they'll say, let's talk. You guys see this? Okay, now, I'm going to give you one of the most overlooked things in this modern world that's going to help you make this happen every time, or almost every time. Ready? Anybody interested? Bored to death? Establishing personal rapport. How many of you do that with a prospect? Okay, look around. It's not everyone. A lot of people are a little uncomfortable. Is that true? Okay, let me ask you a question. What's everybody's favorite subject?
That's
The house.
for me.
It's not the greatest endorsement of humanity, but it's true. Isn't it true? Everybody's favorite subject. So if you want to establish personal rapport, what should you be talking about?
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, yes,
No, you should allow them to talk about themselves.
correct. Now, how do you do that, though?
Asking questions.
Yes.
Leading questions and listen.
Correct. Now, I'll give you a little hint. Let's say you're meeting in someone's office. Usually there's objects in someone's office, correct?
Picture.
Here's two things you can know with total certainty about objects you see in a person's office. Ready? One, the person finds them interesting. And two, they want their visitors to notice them. They wouldn't be out if they didn't want you to see them.
Right.
What if the guy just wants to see his kids, but doesn't want anybody else to see his kids, so he puts it in a drawer? But no, it's not on the drawer, it's on the desk, facing you.
Right.
Why? Wants you to notice. Diplomas, awards, it's all the same. So here's the easiest solution, which I learned a long time ago. Notice what's on the walls, on the desk, standing on the floor. Ask the person questions about them. It's so simple and rarely done.
Oh, I can't believe it's really done.
Rarely done.
That's amazing.
But I'll tell you who does do it. Anybody want to take a guess who does do what I just said?
Number one sales guy in the country.
Yeah, the stars do. And I learned this particular skill from such, and they said, if you don't connect Howard Berman from Coney Island to Brooklyn, who knows nothing and needs to be booted under the table every 5 minutes, if you don't connect, what do you expect to have happen? And I said in my squeaky 22-year-old voice, not much. He goes, good, then change. And remember that when you exhibit that kind of concern, interest, friendship, what do you think happens on the other side of the table?
Reciprocity.
Thank you. It's true. You'll see this?
Yeah.
Now, so let's come back to the number one reason you go on a sales call is to find out if you can help the prospect. Doesn't the degree of communication you establish with them decide that outcome?
Absolutely.
So therefore, if you want to get that real story, you have to develop that connection. And the way you develop that connection is very simple. Follow the sensible rules of communication. Be very interested. Don't interrupt. And listen well. And then once you've established this good give and take, ask questions about them. Just look at the walls. Look at the desk. Form questions. Hey, is that your family there? Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, what ages are the kids? What schools do they go to? Do they play sports? Or you see a picture of the Yankees. Are you a Yankee fan? Oh, how long have you been a Yankee fan? I'm telling you, you might have to ask 2 or 3 questions and then you can't quiet them down. Because they're passionate about the things that are in the room. Everybody see them? So that's how you do it. So again, here's 2 big steps. Establish good communication and use that communication, which shouldn't take you long, because they'll know by the fact that you don't interrupt them and speak well, that you're a person to talk to, and then you establish personal rapport. Okay? That will open up the door. Okay? Now, in the book, you will see in chapter 14 something that should pique your interest. And that is something I developed after a lot of trials and tribulations. It's called the 7-step sales process. Actually, it's called the ideal 7-step sales process. Now, it's a process, given its name, that's supposed to result in sales. Or else I wouldn't have named it that way. Okay, now, step 7 is the most interesting step, which some people think, oh, that's when you close the prospect. But should the salesperson have to close the prospect? Who thinks not? Yes?
When you asked the first question, my answer was, make it easy for the client to say yes. The
Beautiful.
client does it himself, she does it herself.
Right in the beginning. Start the
Beautiful.
process. The closing starts at the first step of the process.
That's great. Anybody else? Okay. So I used a quote in the book on chapter 14 that I found, and the quote was, let me see if I can remember
The water's fine.
is, people do not want to be sold. They want to buy.
That's right.
And if you just look at this beautiful town of Greenwich, there's a lot of buying going on. A lot of things being bought. So people like to buy. That's our culture, is it not? Okay. So as a salesperson, business owner, entrepreneur, professional, you need to enable that process to go forward on their own terms, with their own comfort and their own confidence. Okay. First step of the 7-step sales process, establish really good communication and build personal rapport. Okay? Now, the 7th step is the prospect closing themselves. And in the beginning, I thought it was unrealistic. It seemed like I had to arm twist and go through all kinds of torture to get business. At which point, one of my earliest sales managers said, you need to take a look at what you're saying to them and find out why that's the case. But people, this way goes, that's not true for everyone, Howard. There's some people who have prospects that just buy. You should go out on calls with them. And I did. And I saw a radical difference between what I was doing and what these stars were doing. And they were, to put it simply, they were building relationships. Very, very, very important. They were building personal rapport. They were finding out what the prospect really needed and wanted, how they could be helped, and then they had a great way to present that help. And they handled any discomfort the client had with price, and the client said, let's go. So here's a little hint for you that you'll find in the book. Since we don't live in a perfect world, what happens if you think you did a beautiful job on steps 1 through 6, and then the prospect, against all the rules of nature, does not close themselves? How dare they? I did a perfect job. I have an idea of what you do?
Determine what you did wrong in steps 1 through 6.
You must have been at an earlier time.
It's not like that, but I say, I'm sorry, I'm a virgin, this is my first go.
Let me tell you, I want to give you a lot of credit. That's exactly right. Well done.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so this is what you do. If you get the 7-step sales process and they don't close on step 7, here's what you can know with certainty. Something's a little broken. You just have to fix it. Okay, now, it's very, very simple. Usually, a problem wasn't fully developed, or they had a concern about price or something else that they didn't express. When the client does not express what they're really feeling, their communication with you packs up. You have to unpack it. So let's take a look at that. How many of you have dealt with this in sales? Client, all right, look around. This is a common problem, okay? There's always a reason for the client's communication to pack up. They're not saying something. They're feeling something. They're not saying something. Now, it could be very simple or a little complex. Could be you used a term of a technical nature, or said something that they didn't understand, they're a little too embarrassed to it. Or they thought the price was going to be here, and you quoted them here. Or you answered a question, they were not fully satisfied with the answer. That's created the packed up communication. Now here's how you unpack. Just go back in a logical manner to step 6. Step 5, until you find it. And if they question you, now remember, I'm going to presume you got a good communication. Say, look, this is no arm twisting, this is no push, pressure, anything. I get the feeling that something occurred you're not comfortable with. That's totally okay, but I'd like to try and help. I'd like us to, at the very least, end on a very good note, even if you don't buy my product or service. So what? So am I right about that? Is there anything I said? Anything you thought that we should discuss further? Make it safe. Really safe. You have it? Got that? So, remember I said at the very beginning, I said, the most important thing is to find out if you could help the prospect. Right? Now, so I want to tell you just a little story about the book, which hopefully will embellish these points that I'm making. Okay? So I had gotten to about Natural Law of Sales number 26, something like that. And suddenly I was wrecked by this terrible feeling that I had completely omitted a giant thing. Now, I hadn't written a book before, but now I'm busy writing. Can you imagine that you're spending hundreds of hours writing and suddenly you realize that you know you've omitted something big, but you can't remember what it was? It's not there. That happened to me. I'm telling you, I had the 26 laws fully written, and something giant was left out, and I didn't know what it was. So I was in New York. My wife Laura was on a course in New York. And with my tail between my legs, I went over to Panera Bread and sat down, popped the computer on and said, the gods of sales need to tell me what terrible thing I've left out. And it finally just zoom, I got it. And when I got it, my fingers were just like drawn to the keyboard, and I don't really type, I kind of. But this was the easiest chapter I ever wrote. It just flew out of me. And after it was done, you read it back to yourself, and I had been very brazen. I wasn't editing myself, and it was, I loved it. And so I want to share it with you, okay? Now, it's called, I entitled it, The Foundation. And it's what I had left out. Anybody curious by this time? Okay. It's what I had left out. Now remember, I'd written the introduction and all the natural laws up until 26, finished 26. And here's what I had left out. I had left out a shift in viewpoint that I had finally come to as a salesperson and a sales manager after being full-time in my career for at least 5 years. And having good success, but not star success. Okay? Here's what I realized. I realized that my motivation, and I was doing a pretty good job, my stats were good, but my motivation clearly was my commission. I wanted to win the President's Club trophy. I wanted to go on the company's trip. I wanted to earn a lot of money. In short, my motivation of getting out there and seeing prospects, you could sum it up as me. You all get the point, right? Here's what I discovered. I discovered that that's a completely inverted viewpoint. It's completely and totally reversed. The only proper viewpoint for a business development professional, salesperson, entrepreneur, professional in any business, is to consider the interests and needs of your clients and prospects first, and yours second. I don't really care if it sounds like I'm preaching at you or that I'm pretending to be Mother Teresa or any of that. I'm telling you, it's the complete truth. And the reason I wrote the book is that there's a lot of truths that I was very fortunate enough to learn that I never was taught in sales school. And how I learned it was by being mentored by star-level professionals who from sales school. Like, the way you'll become a star is to cold call all day long. Anybody cold call all day long?
No.
Anybody do a lot of cold calling in the room? Does it work?
They've all committed suicide.
Thank you. Death Valley. You know that when I would be cold calling and doing what they told me to do in sales school, after about 2 hours, I'd go away, go away, go away. I would seek out Asian companies and Japanese-owned companies because they would say, "Oh, come in, sit down, we talk." And they would let me do a whole pitch. They would never buy anything, but at least I got to talk to someone. I kid you not. Okay, so now, having been fortunate enough to learn all of these truths, and basically what I'm telling you is that I discovered that there were things you should always do in sales. Always. That was interesting. I wrote them down. And then I discovered there were things that you should never do in sales. Of course, I was doing all of those. And every time I failed, I should have never done that. Write it down, Howard. And I started getting lots of nevers and lots of always. And then one day, I said to myself, well, gee, this was like the seed that the book sprang from. I said, gosh, those sound like laws. I mean, always and nevers are laws. So If you're standing on the 50th floor of the Empire State Building, and you see someone across 34th Street that you know, should you just walk out the window and say hi? No? You wouldn't? How come? Why? Why would you die?
Well, you're falling off.
Why would you fall?
Gravity.
And what is gravity?
Natural.
Law.
Natural law. Does the sun rise in the east? Sometimes.
No.
As always. So these are not arbitrary principles, correct? Believe it or not, that's what's in the book. There's the always and nevers. And when I figured the 29th one, it was done. There was no more. Now then, I reserve the right to. Maybe I'll have an epiphany and there will be others, but there weren't any others. So now I want to come back to this other point. This point I'm making to you about foundation came late to me. And it took a lot of soul searching. I didn't have a mentor telling me this. I had to look in the mirror. I mean, really. Because my success, I knew it was not what it could have been. I didn't get the referrals other people got from my clients. I didn't get the closes other people got. I had arguments with prospects. I found myself muttering to myself about how dumb they were when they didn't buy and bought from. How could they have bought from someone else? They're just too dumb to do the right thing. Boy, if you start collecting 10 dumb prospects in a row, maybe there's something wrong with you. And so that was the bit of soul searching. And finally, in my career, probably in my 6th year, I began to just reverse my motivation. I said, I'm just going to try this out. I'm just going to forget about what I'm going to make, and I'm going to forget about how much commission I would earn or not earn, and I'm just going to make it all for them. And I have to tell you, it was as if my career had started from scratch. And here's what occurred, and this is just a truth. This is just not an opinion. And it's all in foundation in the book, okay? It works like this. When a prospect knows what I just said is true, you're their guy. Because they trust you. How are you going to get trust? Trust is not a given. You have to earn it. Our parents all tell us that, right? Well, when the prospect knows that you care more about them than you care just about that, things change. Does everybody see that? Okay. So things began to change. And let me tell you how they changed. I began to score one deal after another. But it was much more important than that because every deal is just one deal. But now I was closing prospects who were becoming my friends. Now take a look at that. A prospect, you close them, you just close them, they just become a customer amongst many customers. Correct? But a prospect that becomes your friend is a different thing altogether. Now, I have a question for you. There's a little known fact about all star-level professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, little known fact about something, a skill that they have. Anybody want to guess? I probably already told you.
Resilience.
That's a great quality, but it's not what I was referring to. Sorry. Okay. The skill they have is they can develop relationships with their clients that grow over time. Now, do you guys think that that's valuable? Let me tell you, that is the secret. Because if you have to depend on prospecting and marketing for your successes, do you feel that that's a long road to star-level success or a short road?
Marathon City.
Sorry?
Marathon City.
Marathon City, well put.
Best case scenario.
Correct. So look, anybody want to take a really, really long time to get to superstar status? Well, no one wants that. Okay. Easiest business in the world to get is a qualified referral from a happy client. They don't come from anywhere else. You'll get referrals from various kinds of people, but the slam dunk types come from happy clients who tell other people so. The criteria for a highly qualified referral in the book, okay? Something else that's in the book is an article I wrote called The 4 Diamonds of Client-Based Marketing. Now, I've just been describing happy clients, correct? Happy clients are diamond mines. I didn't pick the metaphor lightly, honest. They're diamond mines. And they will yield 4 diamonds, only one of which is the referral diamond. There are 3 others. If you can create happy clients, which you can, we talked about it tonight, what have you also just created?
Referrals.
Qualified.
Diamond mine. Referrals is only 1 diamond, there's 3 others.
Ongoing business.
And I want to tell you about this diamond mine. It doesn't peter out. You never get all the diamonds. There's always more. Does that get anybody excited? Think about it. Just think about it for a second. You create a diamond mine that forever issues diamonds. That you can create it is a major deal. The client doesn't become a diamond mine by themselves. You create them that way. Everybody see that? 4 diamonds. In the book is a whole write-up on how you get and what the 4 diamonds are. And I'm telling you, it took me, that technology didn't arrive, I developed it, but it didn't arrive to me until after I had been changing my whole approach with considering their interests first. And then they began to wake me up because by making pals out of them, they began to shower me with gifts. And you know what kind of gifts I'm talking about the 4 diamonds. And I didn't even ask. How would I have something for you? How would I have something for you? How would I have something? What? Make sense? Okay. Questions? Yet?
What are your
Oh.
4 diamonds?
In the book. But I'm going to give it to you right now.
I want to make sure I didn't miss it.
But I can't give you a whole description because it'd take too long. But I'm going to give you the 4 diamonds. You ready? But they're in the book and the full description's in the book. First diamond is the information diamond. Clients know things about you you never suspect. And you need to know. And when you ask the right questions, and you have a happy client, they'll tell you. Information, where to market, how to market. Where am I weak? Where am I strong? How do I get more people like you? Information. The second diamond is the greatest weapon for a superstar salesperson. It's called the testimonial letter, which now in our modern age goes up on the website. Okay? Now, in your experience in your lives, a salesperson, a business owner, an entrepreneur, professional is talking to you, and they're telling you how great they are and how great their products are. You believe every word?
No.
Thank you. But what if a client is telling you that? What do you think then? That they're lying?
Actually, on the web, many people think you are lying. Testimonials are a joke on the web. I mean, it's true. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, well, everyone's got those.
Well, I tell you what, if I get a testimonial that's got initials at the bottom,
Yeah, and pictures and the person talking, and people think it's
maybe I
just-
doubt it. But if I get a testimonial on the company's logo, and let's just say it's written and signed, I usually believe it. And if it's on the website with the same information, I certainly, at least as much, I believe, yeah.
What this woman's saying is actually the antithesis of what I was going to observe. The one thing that I haven't heard you talk about, is one of the ways that you successfully communicate with others, is to allow them to engage their imagination in your conversation. And they sell themselves. And as a result, if someone who's willing to do that That's the antithesis of what she is talking about. And if you have that ability, you can, yes, somebody's not going to believe it on the web, but do me a favor, give me 5 minutes of FaceTime, give me 10 minutes of FaceTime, okay? Let me hear you, and I'm going to get your imagination going.
I think it's great. I think it's great. The more you involve the other individual in the conversation, the more they're invested.
They run the conversation.
Yeah.
Isn't that?
They can.
But level 7 is they sell themselves, right?
They sell
Isn't
themselves.
that the ultimate running the conversation?
I'm going to differ with you on that point.
Okay.
Okay? Now, I believe wholly in everything you said, because it's vital that they are in the conversation and are comfortable and invested and interested in it, okay? But I want to use this analogy. If you're the salesperson, and this carries forward throughout, if you're the salesperson, use the metaphor of a car, okay? You get in the car. You and the prospect get in the car to go somewhere from point A to point B. Who's driving?
But here's where I would differ with you. He can pick point. She can pick point B.
He could pick point B, but who's getting behind the wheel?
I got that.
Okay, now, salesperson, right? Business owner.
Absolutely.
All right, now, that means that you've taken on the responsibility of getting the person safely to point B, giving them a comfortable ride, no bumps or minimum, and making them as comfortable as possible. So keep this in mind. In a sales opportunity, the salesperson, the business owner, the professional, the entrepreneur is the driver. And the prospective customer is the passenger. But your carrying on the responsibilities of the driver is based on what?
The needs of
Thank you.
the passenger.
That's right.
Comfort.
First.
May I?
First.
Comfort.
It's a little challenge to disagree, to challenge a speaker who's so articulate and so knowledgeable and so experienced
Okay.
and so successful.
I accept.
However, I grew up with a man, may he rest in peace, my father, who taught salespeople on the beach house where I grew up.
Where?
Just go out and make a friend.
Where? Where was the
And he
beach
was
house?
a top salesman in this company until their mandatorily retired him at 65. And I grew up with this from the time I was 3 years old, and that's how I am. So in terms of who's driving the car, maybe it's a driverless modern car because I never consider myself in charge of this relationship. My prospect, my client, my friend in 30 seconds is in charge.
Okay.
And so I really, I feel that it's part of my DNA, so it's hard for me to, but I'm trying to open up to another perspective of it.
Let me just say this now, hang on. The relationship that we're talking about is a dual thing. No one has more than 50%. It's a dual
That
thing,
makes sense.
okay? That's a fact. But when you sit down to talk to that other person, you're the driver. That doesn't mean you dominate the conversation. That doesn't mean that you do anything that would cause them to feel like a spectator. That means the opposite. It means that you engage, you get them involved. It doesn't change the fact that you are responsible for the successful outcome.
Okay, fair enough.
So continuing on with your analogy, the other passenger, they choose the air conditioning, they choose what music is on, you get the feedback. So what kind of music do you like to listen to? How close should the car be? You want to adjust the seat forward? You want to adjust it back? I want to make you comfortable. I want to understand what you want.
Yeah.
But you are driving.
It's a beautiful thing.
You are driving.
Well said, thank you. Paul, you want to, John?
I don't know, maybe I missed it, but I heard you were talking about 4 diamonds.
Yep.
Information, testimonial, referral. Testimonial, referral
We
seems similar.
never got to A.
What's the 4th one?
So you can consider the 4 diamonds with the initials, ITAR. And I'd be less than honest if I didn't tell you that, and you can write this down. If you go up on the BCA Management website, which is our consulting company website, you will find the Four Diamonds article available for download on the homepage. Take it. Take it and use it, my gift. Okay, it's on the BCA Management homepage, you can download it right there. It's the Four Diamonds of Client-Based Marketing. Okay, so the information diamond, I, T is for testimonial. The third diamond is additional business. Easiest business in the world to get is this is the proverbial low-hanging fruit, is more business from a happy client. Sal, a client that loves you, has a homeowner's policy. You want to talk to them about life insurance. Is it going to go pretty well? Why?
Because they trust me on the homeowner's insurance.
Low-hanging fruit,
Yep.
right? So when you have a happy client and you've already proven your worth, and you just poke around in the conversation, anything changed, you expanded, downsized, added new people, they say, oh, it's funny you should ask. And suddenly you have additional business, and it was so easy. The stars never miss this one. That's why creation of a relationship with a happy client is so important. Okay? So the four diamonds, information, testimonial, additional business. Fourth diamond is the easiest business in the world to close. New business, the referral. The highly qualified referral is the hope diamond of the four diamonds. And I'll tease you and taunt you with this stat, okay? If you get a highly qualified referral and it's listed exactly how to get it and what the criteria is in the book, what percentage of such do you think close?
80%.
Bingo! 80%. That's just a number. You get 5 referrals. How many go ka-ching? Does that get anybody excited? It gets me very excited. So you want to develop new business, get referrals. But you have to earn it. You had your hand up.
No, I was just back on the point where you're talking about the driver. I think if you use the term chauffeur, that might be, they're getting you there, but the other person is in
Chauffeur,
charge.
that's
That
good.
might be a better analogy.
That's good, that's really
But
good.
chauffeurs are too quiet. You know, they sit there, leave the passengers to
For
themselves.
today's day and age, the
Uber
Uber
driver.
driver.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, Uber driver, no, they
Sales
judge
person.
on conversation.
Sales guy is not
Yeah.
quiet,
Yeah.
but you are the driver. Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
How much does psychology and the different personality types of different clients that you run into change your style?
0.
Oh, okay. All based on someone's personality type? and-
0. Total 0. And I'll tell you why.
Awesome.
If you and I were going to have a meeting about potential business, when I sit down with you, I have one thing on my mind. The reason I'm there is to find out if I can help you, right? And that's all I really care about. And so I'm going to handle whatever it is. If you're distracted, I'm not going to be upset by it. If you've got something else on your mind, I'm not going to be upset by it. I'm going to try and carry out the conversation. And if I think that it was just a bad time for us, I'll reschedule. Because my agenda is, can I help? And so whatever's the personality nature of the client is apart from my operating basis. Did I answer?
Yeah.
You have something more on that?
I'm just thinking, some people, there's different, I've run into different personality types myself, and it's a different, I find that I need to do a different kind of explaining of things, and a little bit different discovery. And also that some people respond differently to a different, my persona differently in different ways. So some people, especially the male-female interaction,
Gender
can
is
be
huge.
tough. And I can appreciate what she was saying earlier, because, I mean, like it or not, there's still some of that dynamic, and I think I have been more successful when I take a more humble, I mean, you always take a humble approach.
Yes.
I'm always there to help my client. I'm always diving down to what are their biggest needs, what's gonna make a real difference for them. And I think that's why things work out well. But
Let me say something to you.
But I think there's some, all right, but I'm not quite there yet. I think that, but go ahead.
There's a,
You have an idea.
I like what you had to say, but you have exposed a big trap that you could fall into. And that is thinking you have to change who you are for the prospect. This was, by the way, promoted as a sales skill by certain people who were involved in sales training. In other words, they would suggest that if the prospect was this way, you should be like them.
Well, I'm simply looking at things like, all right, so you watch, what do you like about Tom Cruise?
What I like
First thing
about
you
it?
loved about Tom Cruise, he was cocky, he's full of himself.
Yeah.
He's like, everybody's drawn and attracted to that guy. But then, but some people are not.
True.
So sometimes there are different dynamics and different parts of my personality. I'm not just one little component in this way all the time. We all have different things that can spark our interest and get us more excited. And some people I find want you to be a real authority on something, and other people want to be the authority. Do you know what I mean?
You could carry, if you carry out all of those things and remain comfortable as yourself, you're just handling whatever there is to handle. And it's going to be easy because your priorities are going to be straight. You're going to be looking at this person, you're not going to be offended or upset or any of this, because you're just there to find out if you can help.
I mean, Howard, you talked about helping people, that's your number one goal when you meet someone. Well, depending upon what type of person they are, a thinker, a doer, an actor, all these things that we heard when we tried to categorize people. It's really the communication style that you're using with them in order to get them to the point where you can help them. If you find that they're in a rush, then you cut to the chase quicker to help them, because they don't want to hear all the things about what's on their wall and the Yankee picture and all this other stuff.
Maybe they don't.
If they don't, but then you've gotten that up front, but you have your underlying goal is to help them. So if you keep that in mind, it's really the communication style that may alter, not the way that you are.
Right.
Try to be a chameleon to them.
That's right, you can't.
Right.
Let me tell you a story about, anybody think of this term of an iceberg prospect? Prospect that's an iceberg, meaning they're like giving you the old frigid treatment. So I had a prospect, a senior manager in an insurance company on Park Avenue, big insurance company. And I go in to see the guy about sales training and so on and so forth. And how about this one? Have any of you had a conversation with a prospect where all you got was monosyllabic answers? Anybody had that?
Yeah.
How are you doing today? Fine. Sal, what did you think about the Mets yesterday? Lousy. How's everything going in the company? It's all right. So this went on for about 5 or 10 minutes. I was thinking, I gotta get out of here. I mean, it's painful, isn't it? So luckily for me, and I was trying to figure out a polite way to extricate myself from this torture of conversation. So luckily for me, he gets a phone call, this particular guy. And he goes, I have to step out for a moment. All I could think of was, I have to step out for a moment. 6 words. I said 6 words. Wow. Let me just get out of here. So meanwhile, so now I'm saying, didn't I learn about personal rapport? So I just forcibly look at the wall, right? And there was a big diploma from Boston University with his name on it. Okay, fine. So I just said, and then he comes back in the room. So he comes back in the room, and he sits down, and it's going to start all over again. I can see it on his face, right? And I said, I see you went to Boston University. He goes, that? He goes, yes, I did. I said, God, the guy didn't move his head and said 3 words. So I said, well, what made you decide to go there? I'm telling you, it was like a flood. He's telling me about the sister, he's telling me about his older brother, the fraternity he joined. This guy wouldn't stop talking. And the sports he played, he's going on and on and on and on. And after about 10 minutes, he says, oh, what were we going to talk about? Oh, we were going to talk about sales training. Yes, this was the guy had changed into a different guy. Let me tell you something, I got a great project out of that iceberg meeting, okay? And I got 3 referrals, 2 of them I closed. And that was from a guy who was trying to walk out the door. So, what did I do? I had not developed personal rapport. And really, all I did was I asked him questions about him. And he saw that I really cared. I didn't keep talking. I said, so tell me. Okay, questions? Any more questions? Yes?
You know, Howard, you've been talking a lot about the beginning of the sales process and the end of the sales process. But you haven't been able to talk totally about all your book in this short time. And there's a lot in your book about being the driver, handling the business, let us say managing the business of moving towards the sale. And I think that's a great part of that book.
Thank you.
That would be lost maybe in this group if we weren't to mention it, because it's not just a question of being amiable, it's really a question of managing the sales and the business aspect of it. And I think you do a really great job of presenting that in the book in between the beginning and the end.
Thank you. That's very kind. Well, just to respond, there are 29 natural laws. There are 29 always and nevers. And when you get an understanding and an ability to apply all 29 laws, you're going to be very well equipped to carry an opportunity through to a total conclusion. Okay? Now, one of the things that's smack dab in the middle of the book I want to share with you is this. So I was always in the IT business. I started consulting really in the late 90s. I was forced into it. People started calling me out for real problems. They would say, come and help us, we'll pay you. God, help them, they'll pay me. So as I began to work with some large companies, some medium companies, some smaller companies, I began to meet a lot of different people. So one thing, if I sat down and did a detailed questionnaire with each one of you in this audience, I would discover for every person here a unique set of strengths and weaknesses. Everybody see that? No 2 people are alike. So, therefore, it's never a case of, you can't find a common denominator for why people succeed or fail based on, because you'll find some people with certain strengths, certain weaknesses are stars, and some people with different strengths and weaknesses are failing. So I wanted to find a common denominator that was true for all. And this became like a quest. In other words, there must be something that sales teams, sales forces, individuals who are failing have in common. What the heck is it? I couldn't find it. And I was questioning. And I was like, is there something that they all have in common or isn't there? And I had to believe there was something in common, and there was. And I did find it. Curious? Mm-hmm. Yes? Mm-hmm. You have to beg me. This is in the book and you don't have to beg. Now here it is. The common denominator of every failing salesperson, business owner, entrepreneur, professional, whether it's a sales team or a whole sales force, if they're failing, the one thing they all had in common is they were not engaged with enough qualified prospects. If I was right, then if I solve that problem, their stats should rise precipitously. Shouldn't that be the case? Okay. So I grabbed a hold of 3 projects that I was working on, all churning and burning and upset. And I just said, you're not going to do anything else but prospect. Here's your game plan. And I based the game plan on what I had discovered previously worked in that company. Remember, game plans are different for different people in different companies with different products. So I developed a game plan, and I said, you're going to prospect. And they were arguing and pleading and complaining. I said, shut up. I just gave them targets and made them do it, and I had the backing of the owners of the company or the managers. Right? So, okay, my goal was, you're going to replenish your pipeline. You're going to exponentially increase it. And then I went to the second team, did the same thing in the third group, which was a large group, same thing. And I said, if I'm right, they're all going to be jumping. Okay? The first group was at Morgan Stanley. 3-person team. Hadn't closed a new client in 6 months. Fallen on their own swords. They got their first client, the first member of the team got his first new client in 6 months after he got 5 new names on the pipeline. The second one closed, the third one closed. The end of that story is they had 55% increase in money under management in 6 weeks. And what did BCA do? What did we do? We got them to prospect. We got the pipelines grown. I did the same thing with the second company, which was an Aflac group. I did the same thing with the third company, which was a heavy IT company in Manhattan. Everyone went shooting. So the principle was proven. So, if you need an instant cure to you're having trouble in sales, expand the pipeline. Everybody know what I mean by a pipeline? Is your people you're working on, okay? That you think have a better than even chance of being closed, okay? Now, a weapon that you can use in that endeavor that I use with the 3 groups I just told you about is called the BCA 4-column detector. Now, that's in the book. At the end, you veteran guys know about it. Now, the real juice on the BCA 4-column detector is that when I first started my career in ancient Rome, 1971, they would ask us, my managers would ask us certain questions every day. Questions were, and if you didn't know the answers, you were going to go to the woodshed and be kicked around, right? Here were the questions. Where's your business coming from? Who's referring companies? What are you selling? What's moving? And if you weren't on top of your game, you were a dog. So when I started consulting, and by the way, so then I had formed my own computer company. I did the same thing with the guys working for me. Where's the business coming from? Who's referring companies? What are you selling? What's moving? And they had better answer, or else I took them to the woodshed, okay? So now, fast forward, I'm consulting. I go into a big insurance company. I ask them the same question. Where's your business coming from? Well, what's moving? Oh, lots of things are moving. Like what? I'll get back to you.
My desk.
Are you kidding me? I said, wait a sec, I must be having a bad day. So I go to the second company. Finally, I cut it short. This technology that was so locked in when I started out had fallen out of use. So I put it back in. I put it back in with all of our clients. And I put it in writing, and it's called the BCA 4-column detective. And what it's going to do when you do it, it's right in the book there at the end, what it's going to do is it's going to expose to you something very interesting. It's called happy clients, referral sources, and opportunities. Now, does that interest anybody? Thank you. Look what I said. Happy clients, referral sources, new opportunities. That's how you build sales.